All right, we're on to game 3 of this Stuff Tezuka match. This is Tezuka's third first turn in a closed match. That's really rough. I feel kind of bad for Stuff at this point, because I thought the second game he played really well and had a good situation, but Tezuka happened to have a forced win. Maybe I should have realized it quicker than I did because he did play quickly, and people don't tend to play the end games that quick if they don't have a forced win. And we saw him spend a long time with 3 moves left on the prior game, and this one he played really quick, and that probably should have been an indication he just has it. Um, so we're back to the 8-10 set, and I already talked a bit about this rule set, but we see a level 8 used as the starter in a level 8 corner. So again, the natural way to fill out the hand is something like level 9 utility, sort of parallel corner with the other level 8. Could easily be a parallelish corner with level 9 and a utility on the 8. And then 2 10s for the other corners. Now, what did Tezuka do last time? Well, he had his level 9 as a utility, A656. He had parallel level 10s. He had 469A and A955. And for his level 8s, the corners left are 1 and 9. And indeed, he had a sort of card for 1 in 5686, but with a little more varied utility. I'd call that a card for 2. And then he had a horizontal card in 4948, which I was not expecting because it's a hand that essentially ends up having 2 utility cards, which is pretty rare, but also like hard to predict and has a lot of upside in closed. I think one of the all-time great closed hand players, you could easily argue the like greatest, is Broccoli. And if Broccoli wrote some articles in Occult Fan showing various hands she made, and they're not using obvious parallels or power cards, but they do find a bunch of ways to have neat little synergies with each other. And I think Tezuka is a really good player in this direction as well. Of here are cards I can run together that are not going to be very predictable, but they will have serious play off each other. I'm going to find ways for cards to click together that are not really the usual ways for them to click. And I think this can be really good hand making in closed, especially against opponents that are trying to make some reads. So, especially against like me, right? I think this is a good strategy against me. And yeah, it's neat to see. And I think Broccoli was really good at this. And I think Tezuka is really good at this. And it is no coincidence that Tezuka's tournament championship was TTAC. Now, Tezuka just crushed an open. Like, uh, I think he tied a game against Kaus and maybe another game or two on the way, but he did not lose an open. You know, he crushed an open, but he also crushed and closed. It was a really dominant performance on both sides of the ball. And Broccoli is, of course, a 2-time TTAC winner. Who are the TTAC winners? Is she the only 2-timer? It's possible she's the only 2-time winner. And she did it after an 8-year break, which is nuts. Um, Let's go find where I have this. TT tournament player history. I have a list of all the top 8s. All right, TTAC 1, Broccoli wins. TTAC 2, Firebrand, definitely not a repeat winner. TTAC 3, Kamikaze, could have been a repeat winner, but defended his title for most of the time through his peak after that. TTAC 4, Cookie, also again could have repeated, hasn't. TTAC 5, Suikoden. TTAC 6, Scythe. TTAC 7, me. TTAC 8, Great Sephiroth. TTAC 9, Broccoli again. TTAC 10, Yojimbo. TTAC 11, Sir Smokes. Oh, it's going to be Deli, isn't it? TTAC 12, Deli. Yeah, it's going to be Deli. How'd I forget this? TTAC 13, Acela. TTAC 14, Tezuka. TTAC 15, Deli repeats. And TTA 16, Turds. So there are 2 people to have ever won 2 TTACs. One of them's Broccoli. The other's Deli. Uh, I don't. I mean, it is entirely possible Deli has some specific talent for closed hand making, but Deli has won so much of every type of tournament that if you were like, ah, yes, Deli has some special skill in this format, Yeah, then you have to be like, okay, but what's his special skill in all the others? It might just be that he's really, really great at triple triad in general. And, so I wouldn't look into Delhi having won two TTACs as Delhi has some special TTAC talent. I would look at it as Delhi has a special TT talent, and that happens to have included winning two TTACs along with a bunch of others. Um, but Tezuka, you know, his one tournament is TTAC. Broccoli, her two tournaments are TTAC. I think these are players that have skill sets that they're very, very good at triple triad in general, of course. But I think they hand build in ways that are effective and useful in closed, particularly, and that's a really cool and neat talent. And one that I'd like to think more about at some point. Uh, Okay, so we see another slash. We've seen these slash formations every game. This time, Tezuka has managed to hold on to higher number cards. We see a corner. So, okay, yeah. So, one of the reasons we're talking so much from second turn's perspective is two things. I talked about this a little last time. One reason is first turn is sort of setting a formation, and you're just kind of like, well, they should go in seven in a way that sets themselves up, but you don't know their cards. From second turn, it's kind of, well, they could slide here, they could block here. There's more to discuss without knowing the cards. But also, first turn has to use all their cards, second turn doesn't. So, first turn is making much more interesting decisions about how to keep power for later. But we cannot see those decisions being made because we don't know their hand. We can only see the consequences of what they do, not the options they have in doing them. We can see, okay, Shizuka has played seven here, probably has this or this, but we can't see what other options did he have to go there. We can only guess at what he has based on what he set up. We can't guess at what else he could have set up. Um, so But this also tells us something more important from second turn's perspective, which is it tells you which cards have been used or which level cards have been used and which are available, which makes these split level closed sets really interesting because you gain additional information above and beyond the usual of kind of, oh, they used a corner. Um, you gain information like, they have one level 8 and two level 10s left. And level 8s and level 10s have very different numbers. They are likely to be able to plus wall or same wall in the case of 10s. Um, and so, what numbers you can put out safely depend on what level cards you have drawn out of their hand. That makes for an interesting effect. I think I did a decent job talking about that in the first game, though I'm not sure because as I said in that video, I have not slept well in a while. Okay, so from what we've seen of stuff, he tends to block squares his opponent has set up. So stuff has set 2 and 4. Tezuka has set 6 and 8. In general, stuff has set 2 and 6 because he set the card in 3 after the card in 5. Tezuka has set 4 and 8 because he set the card in 7 after the card in 5. So in general, also, Tezuka is more likely to have play against the nines. He did make this hand, so there's a very good chance he has some play off the 5 and 1s. But even then, it's just clumsier when cards interact with a 5 or a 1 than when they interact with 9s. I would say... So, okay, Stuff does something different this game. He does something different. He gets rid of a square he has set. He does make sure there is not significant combo potential. But we might fit this in with the previous moves. Because the main reason I've thought of for Stuff making the moves he has, note he doesn't really care about flipping 5 on this turn, which makes him stylistically very different than me. We play these positions clearly very differently. That doesn't mean one of us is right or wrong. There's a very good chance one of us is right or wrong. It's probably me. But I tend I like when 5 is my opponent's card. But it does depend on you having combo play against it, and if you don't, it stops being as important to keep control of. But the thing we're seeing again from Stuff is I think he is playing against the card his opponent just played. And we have seen that repeatedly. So that seems to be the more consistent theme. It's not, he's happy to flip the card in 5. I'm not sure it's clear he wants to, but he's fine doing it. He doesn't, he has not been looking to slide on this turn. He does slide on the next turn, but not this one. He doesn't care about sliding on this turn. Um, till now, I've thought he gets rid of squares his opponent has set and not squares he has set. It's possible he's trying to do something different this game, or that his hand is working out very differently here. But I think that's probably not the principle here. I think the consistent principle among the 3 moves is he has played against the card his opponent has just played. And his 1754 in the last game when it landed in 2 was a card that 2663 was actually one of the only cards Tezuka had in his hand that could take it, and he was forced to use his other card that could immediately take it. And situations like that, where by attacking the number Tezuka has just put out, he really limits and attacks what Tezuka can do. And the way this attacks 5A94, Frog, the card Tezuka has just played, is Frog is, Tezuka did not set the card in 3. Frog was a card that could take the card in 3. It is hard to take a 9. He is saying, I am challenging you to take this difficult thing. Now, what do you do if you're Tezuka? The standard options are 2 and 4. I have a liking for 9. I play 9, I think, a lot more than other good closed players play. Possibly I shouldn't say other good closed players. Possibly saying other good implies I am good, and this is a matter of some dispute. But I think I play 9 here a lot more than most people do. Just worth saying. I have no idea what Tezuka's cards are. We know he has a level 8 and 2 level 10s remaining. I would guess he has an A9 corner for 9, which he's probably going to leave for 8 and 9. That doesn't really affect the decision of going in 2 or 4. He probably doesn't have a great corner card left for 1 because he just used one. He probably has a corner card for 7. And he has some kind of utility that is really hard to read. I would think he probably does have 2. It's hard to use Frog up if you don't have something else for 2. And that card might be okay to use immediately. Okay, he does have A955 again, which makes sense as a sort of pair with 5199. Okay, but that gives us new information. Now it might be really likely his other level 8 is a 9-9. That he has a 9-9-4-9. Because he just paired Fafnir with a 5199, which is a very nice pairing. And it could easily be he's doing a similar pair the other way as well, where he has Frog paired with a 9-9 for 9. So I was thinking he probably had an A9 corner for 9, and he still definitely could, like he did in the previous game, but he could also have a 9-9 for 9. Either way, I think he has a card with a 9 and either an A or another 9 facing out from 9. But I have no idea what his 5th card is. The traditional way to play this for Stuff, I think, is to go in 9. Note that Stuff has not set up either 4 or 8. Tezuka has left open the squares he set up. Now, he had set up Fafnir really well in those squares, so he did use up at least one card that were well set up, because Fafnir had the same in 4, and the double capture in 8 with a high number facing out in both cases. Fafnir, very good card. Fafnir clearly would land well everywhere, but Stuff, by noticing that Frog was out of Tezuka's hand, sort of forced Fafnir to be used early. By attacking where Tezuka has used up power, he has forced Tezuka into using a card that's potentially the most powerful card, kind of possible. So traditional way to play is going 9. The way I tend to like to play is to slide in 4 or 8, but because of the capture in 6, sliding is not so good, because you can never combo back and flip the card in 6 because it didn't slide. So moves in 4 and 8 are a little less plausible, especially because of the same in 2 that happened as well. If you're going to slide in 4 or 8, you need your capture in the other square to have a really high number facing out, or you're just probably losing. Um, you can also start in 1, but 1 is more susceptible to combo than 9 because you can usually go in 9 in a way that doesn't threaten 6. This is probably pretty dangerous. I think Tezuka's in good shape here. I think this is a tough spot unless Tezuka's remaining cards are really bad. And what I hope Stuff is thinking about is, what does Tezuka have? Because if you can dodge what he has, you are in good shape. And I think if Tezuka has a level 8 that's a 9/9 corner 4/9, if you go in 8, you probably hold here if you have anything for 4. Because that card I don't think is going to flip anything on its backside. It's probably like a 9/4/3/9. Because we saw 5/1/9/9 paired with Fafnir, right? It has the 5 to play off. So I'm thinking the other level 8's backside probably plays with Frog. I'm thinking it might be the 4. Could be the 5 as well. But for some reason, my brain's telling me it's the 4. So, I think Tezuka has 9/4/3/9 in his hand. So, and that card is really bad landing in 1 or 4. Or specifically 1. So if I play 9, if I have anything for 4, then either Tezuka doesn't take me because he uses his crappy 9/9, or his 9/9 that has no play there, or he doesn't use it and it has no play next turn. So my thinking is you want to start in 9. And I would have even actually been willing to play this card potentially in 9 itself. Though this card's good in 4, so maybe not. Okay, but Stuff takes. Now, this is a card that cannot be taken by 9/4/3/9. And it's a card that says, I have 8, and it is hard for you to flip this and be safe to 5. Again, you don't want to have flipped 5. If Tezuka could have taken in 3 without flipping 5, I think this would have been a better situation for him. But that's true. This is a hard card to take from 4. And Tezuka is unlikely to have both squares on 5 and 7 because he already used a card that does. It's kind of hard to have a second card that does. So we'll see if Tezuka quick plays something in 9. If he does, it might just be over. Because A9/5/5 is the last card. If he had another one of those, would just be game. But I think he doesn't have that. So I think this is tricky, and this probably makes this a really good try. Probably better to go here. And this plays really well against my predicted card. If Tezuka has something like 9/1/5/9 or 9/2/5/9 or something like that, that touches Frog's 5, then he maybe can take this, but his other card might be dead in the other corner. Yeah, one reason this can be good. So I like to play the slide setups, but in hand games, one reason it can be better to go like this is because the opponent's cards are so likely to be kind of 2 corners for the remaining squares. Now, Tezuka doesn't have another corner for 1, I don't think, but it's easy for the cards to be corners for the remaining squares, and sometimes if you play in one of those corners, their corner for that side of the board has no play against it, and if they use their other corner that does have play against it, then their final card is terrible because it can no longer land where it wants to land. And yeah, so this can be a way to make it complex for the other person's hand. We have no idea what Tezuka's 5th card is. I've decided he has 9/4/3/9 or something very similar. I'm probably going to be proven wrong, but I like making such calls. It's fun the occasional time I'm proven right. But we have no idea what his level 10 is, because if you assume the card I'm assuming, then it is somewhat likely to have more left than right, but we have no other information on it, because the hand is otherwise balanced. You can also see that Tezuka has run a lot of 9s this game. He's run 2 A9/5s and a 9/9, and I'm predicting him to be running another 9/9, which means Stuff's call to run 7/5/7/6 does look like it plays pretty well here. Against this genre of cards, that's obviously a nice choice. I would guess from Stuff's hand, we have only seen the level 8s, so it is very likely we saw him run an A8 in the previous game, so maybe another A8 is here, but likely to be A9 power. coming through. And A954 is a natural pair, for instance, with 964A. Like, I think there's a very good chance stuff has Yuna. In fact, I'm going to put stuff on Yuna. I think stuff is Yuna, and I think that's his capture card combo back with an 8. And if you have 8 rather than 4, it makes a lot of sense to start in 1 rather than 9. So I think stuff is Yuna, and I like how he's played this. Though, of course, the move in 6 is not to my style, but that's fine. Moves can be not to my style and still be good. So I think stuff is Yuna, and I think Tezuka is 9439, and that seems good for stuff to me. Maybe stuff's going to get back on the board here. And Tezuka does not have the forced win because if we know if he has some kind of forced win or just crushing setup, he will just play it. And he will see it quickly and play it quickly. Now, we don't know that he's in a bad position because we saw him take a while on a move where he had some stuff to think about, but the position was pretty promising with 3 moves left. Minimog. Well, that is not what I called. All right, well, I was wrong. I was right about exactly one of the numbers, the 9 facing up. But I certainly did not call that. Okay. So if he has Fafnir left again, if he had a second Fafnir in hand, I think that card's called Fafnir. I'll make sure. Open image in new tab. Fafnir, nice. That would be ideal for him. He certainly doesn't have it. But, okay, this is scary for stuff again. It's always so hard calling these 50-50 slots. Because, like, there's a decent chance there's a move here that wins for stuff. There's a decent chance there's a bunch of moves that lose. Yeah. It's now scary again. All right, so I like this move from Tezuka. Probably should have seen it coming, that something like this would happen. But I thought the way to do this was with the 9439, and that was way more susceptible to combos. So because I had made a call on his hand, I thought this was a much riskier move. But maybe that wouldn't be so susceptible to combos because maybe like stuff has just used his card that could combo it. Again, I think stuff is Yuna. I think he's gonna. Yep, there's Yuna. Okay. So Tezuka's hands are hard to read. Stuff's hands are more plausible. But you'll notice because the 4A95 was played in 1 on move 6, there's not that much time to adapt, even if you correctly call Yuna's in your opponent's hand. So, like, if you are running an endgame a pair, you usually want to, like, land one pretty late in the game so that they come as, like, this quick-hitting surprise. But I feel good that I made one call correct. And I have no idea what Tezuka's last card is. It's A259. Okay, so there was... All right, so it wasn't the 9439, but there was a card for the corner 9 that was kind of dead in this endgame. And it was just living enough. It had the plus wall, unlike 9439 that Tezuka gets the tie. But... And it did have the 5 facing down. So I had guessed it would have a 4 facing to the right rather than the 5 facing down. And I had decided it was the 9-9, not the A9. But yeah, this does fit with what we were doing. But Tezuka, again, and maybe you, the viewer, had different thoughts than I did. Maybe you were making different predictions than me. So maybe you got it. But to my sense, this fits with what Tezuka was doing and the way it looked like he was building. But there were enough options within it that I was wrong about which thing it was. And when he played Minimog, which I should have identified as the utility card, which tells us we still haven't seen the corner card for 9. But I didn't think that well ahead. This card, you'll also see that 2 fits with Minimog. Lots of little synergies in the hand. But I think it did make sense for stuff to go 8 because he probably... I mean, A, Yuna lands much better in 8 than anything lands in 4, so you were going to play that anyway. But B, it was still likely that stuff had a corner for 9 left. Yeah. All right, so that's game 3. The score is currently 1-0 Tezuka. And I'm running out of voice a bit, but if they keep playing, I guess I'll keep recording.